to make pizza! First, I start with the crust. I like to use these cauliflower crusts that come 2 in a box. For the sauce, I like to use this natural Hunt's tomato sauce, which only has tomato in it and no sugar. Make sure you read the ingredients because I'm not making a yummy sweet treat, I'm making a pizza! Don't buy sugar sauce. And don't buy sauce with corn syrup in it. For cheese, I'm just using this shredded low moisture Sargento mozzarella cheese. Also, make sure you have a bunch of shredded Parmesan. Ideally, you want to get low moisture whole milk mozzarella, but this stuff is pretty much the best that I can get at the store. For pepperoni, you should get a stick and cut it yourself, but I'm just using this processed bag stuff, which is probably really bad for you, but whatever. And here are all the spices I'll be using. So before I do anything, I'm going to preheat the oven to 425, like it says on the box, and I'm going to put my 2 trays, since I'll be making 2 pizzas, into the oven for a little bit. Once they're warm, I'll take them out, and I'm going to spread some butter onto the trays, just enough to cover the bottom of the crust. This will help it not stick, and it will also slightly crisp the bottom of the crust. Please don't use metal on non-stick surfaces. I'm not actually touching the metal against metal here, so it's okay. So on to creating the actual pizza sauce. I'll use up the rest of this sun-dried tomato basil stuff that I have. A little bit of ground mustard. I'm gonna put a tiny bit of crushed red pepper in the sauce, but I'll put more of this on the pizza directly later. Next, I'll add a bunch of these minced onions, a tiny bit of turmeric, and a bunch of this dill weed. I'm gonna add this Italian seasoning stuff. It's mostly just oregano and basil. I actually added a little too much here, and it ended up tasting a little too basil-y, but it's still good. Now I'll put a bunch of parsley in the sauce, and a tiny bit of garlic powder. I'll add more of this to the pizza later. Add a little tiny bit of salt, and lastly, some Parmesan cheese. I'm gonna give this a good mix till everything is fully consistent and sauce-like, kinda like this. Now that that's done, I'm gonna start scooping this evenly into the middle of each crust, and spreading it out as smoothly as possible. Try to spread the sauce all the way out to the edge as best as you can, but make sure you leave a tiny little rim so you have somewhere to hold the pizza. That can of sauce makes exactly enough for these 2 pizzas. Now it's time for cheese, and I'm going to start with a little more Parmesan, followed by the first thin layer of mozzarella. I'm going to get the spice back out now, and add a little bit of garlic powder here. This is going to give the pizza a nice garlic flavor, so skip it if you're a vampire. I'll also add some crushed red pepper to give the pizza a little bit of a kick, and some more Parmesan. So that's the first layer done, and now I'm going to add the pepperonis. You want to ensure the pepperoni is evenly spaced across the whole pizza, but make sure there are gaps between each piece where the cheese can flow through. I like to place the pepperoni into rings, starting from the center. Now I'll add another layer of cheese on top, and this time I'm going to focus my cheese on the gaps between the pepperoni. If you had mushrooms or other toppings, you should add them during or after this layer of cheese, depending on how much you want them cooked, maybe with a little bit more cheese on top for support. But to finish off the pizza, I'll add, you guessed it, some more Parmesan. The oven should have preheated by now, so I'm going to throw the first one in there for about 16 to 17 minutes, but you need to visually inspect it to see when it's fully done. Now while that's cooking, I'll prepare the second pizza. This is what the pizza looks like when it's ready. The cheese in the middle is nice and browned, and the edge of the crust is just slightly burnt and crispy. It'll still be good even if you burn it a little bit more than this. I'll put the other pizza in, and this is the final product. Pure perfection. These cauliflower crusts are really good and crispy when they're fresh, but if you let the leftover pizza sit in the fridge for more than a day or so, it'll start getting kind of soft and moist. But that's it, that's how I make pizza. Make sure you comment, rate 5 stars, and subscribe, because I'll be back next week with a brand new video that probably isn't going to be about cooking.